all the really big, popular, successful MMOs have a single-player experience within them.
This is actually what my mom did in WoW back in the day. Is like she would just play WoW pretty much single player. Like she was in a guild. So basically she would play the game in a guild and she made friends and everything. And I remember one day I was in like 11th grade and I woke up early for school and my mom was awake. She was happy. She had her morning tea. She was on the computer smiling and she was in Vent. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, my guild's gonna do Dire Maul today. And I said, damn, that's badass. That's awesome. Well, have fun. I gotta go to school. I come home from school. 8 hours later, she's still got her little headset on. And I look and I see, you know, they're standing in front of a boss. And she's like, how's Dire Maul going? And she says, it's going. And I'm like, alrighty then. And so I go into my room and I start playing. I come out in a few hours and I say, Mom, what's for dinner? And she's like, I don't know, just make whatever you want. I don't know, just I don't know what you want. Like just figure something out. Like just go eat something. I'm busy. I'm doing something right now. And I walk over and I see what's happening and it's her character is fucking dead next to all of the other characters and it's on like the road or like the little ramp up to the last boss in Dire Maul because they just wiped on trash because the little fucking eye summoned an elite that killed the raid. And she was in there for, I'm not even fucking kidding you, like 15 hours in one day. She didn't raid again until Karazhan. She did not raid again until fucking Karazhan. And so then she came back, and by the way, they wanted her to off-tank things as a Moonkin, and she decided, you know what? Maybe raiding isn't really my thing either. Did she kill the last boss though? Well, she didn't get anything if she did. So then after that, she played the entire game pretty much single player. She had maybe a handful of friends in the game, but for the most part, she was a single player WoW experiencer, right? And that's just what she did. She had a bunch of different guild banks. She, you know, like farmed resources, and she had the equivalent of like back in Burning Crusade, she had the equivalent of probably like 35 or 40 million gold. Like nowadays, it's like 35 or 40 million gold. Like, she was able to pay for Zach's Epic Flying, Miklorivi's Epic Flying, like it was no big deal. Like, she just paid for the whole thing outright, and then also she helped me pay for part of mine. Yeah, it's fucking insane. Do you have her account? Yeah, I do. And, yeah, so there are a lot of people that did this back with old WoW, too. Absolutely. And yeah, I would actually get her to, whenever I was starting working on completionism stuff in Legion, I would get her to mail me stuff from, like, one of the guild banks that she had. And, like, she would help me fund stuff, too. Even then. I'm just going to close that.
What makes me really sad about MMORPGs is I think they've forgotten that the first thing they need to be is a really good game. And the second thing they need to be is as long as they can be without being shit. And then you can add in all the multiplayer stuff. Please do that first. I would probably never make an MMO because I'm aware of how remarkably complicated
I think this has become more true because, like, back in the day, an MMO could just simply be good because it's a multiplayer game. Because people would play it on the novelty that it's multiplayer. But nowadays, everything is multiplayer. Nowadays, everything in the world is interconnected. So this is no longer a novelty. This is just something to be taken for granted.
They are to do. But let me explain the process I would go through. And again, I'm simplifying this. I understand that if you've made an MMO, it's an incredibly complicated thing to do. And I'm not meaning to kind of downplay your achievement or your accomplishment at all. But please understand the first thing you need to do is this. Make a really good game. It's a single player game. A story, a world, an interesting place. And then work out the best way that people could interact within it, and then make it as fun as possible. Make it so people want to log in. Not feel like they have to. You ever got home from work and thought, I've got to log in. I don't want to, but my second job begins now.
It's money.
It's not so simple as you're saying.
I know. I mean, it's money.
Yeah, that's why I said it's not as simple as this.
Volume's low. Sure, I'll turn it up.
I kind of preceded that statement by saying it's not as simple as I'm going to make it sound, but what you need to do is make a good game.
Well, the thing is, like, a lot of things are actually really, really simple, right? It's like, for example, like, if you want to be healthy, work out regularly almost every day and eat a good diet. Like, that's going to help you. That's going to help everybody become more healthy at a general level. Yeah, just do that. Just be healthy, right? And guess what? It's really hard to do. It's easy to say, but it's hard to do. That's the way it goes. How many things are like that? Like everything.
I am aware. If you're starting to create the MMO with single-player approach, you'd run into the issues that will be impossible to resolve or take time to resolve. Okay, testimony. I'm not talking about systems. I'm talking about gameplay experience. Guild Wars 1 can be played single-player. Guild Wars 2 can be played single-player. Elder Scrolls Online can be played single-player.
That's true.
Final Fantasy XIV can be played single-player. All the really big, popular, successful MMOs have a single-player experience within them that a player can log into. And RuneScape has a single-player game mode, Iron Man. And then what you do is you work out the best way that these single players could interact with each other. The problem is that forcing interaction between players doesn't work as well anymore.
Because it's no longer a novelty. It's no longer a gimmick. It's no longer unique, and it's not special anymore. Everything's interconnected. Everybody sees everybody. We live in a constant interconnected world, and having this just for no reason, just to add in some level of forced interaction, is not going to be perceived in the same way positively as it was back in 2005. We live in a society.
Used to be fine. I really do think that if you want to be playing the game with friends, excellent.
Yeah.
Allow people to play together.
Yeah.
Allow them to play with friends.
That's cool.
But also have it so they can play on their own if they want to. One of the best things RuneScape does is allow you to just change worlds and servers as you wish.
Yeah.
I do not know why this isn't standard procedure on every MMO. It's
because the MMOs, a lot of these MMOs, they don't know how to handle economies, and they have, in a lot of ways, that they don't really know what to do with the economies in the game, and they think that the economies will fall apart. I actually think this is a stupid reason, and I think it's a completely stupid reason. And the reason why I think it's stupid is that you can look at many games that have this and don't have the problem. Like you have, global markets, and having this is just simply a better experience for players. And I think that, like, saving the economy doesn't really matter that much. Like, you don't need the game developer never needs to worry about where the economy is going, because the game developer can change the economy. So, like, for example, wow, this material is really expensive. People keep fucking, reselling it. All right, well, we'll just add in more of them into the game and it'll lower the price. Like, you're literally God. So, like, how can you be God and somehow you have to fucking make these servers and shit and fucking make it where people can't play with each other? There's no reason. You can control the economy as much as you want. I think it's a completely fucking, they can completely delete gold. They give better entries. Yeah, exactly. There's plenty of ways to do it, man.
We should be. That's what it should be.
Just common sense.
RuneScape was one of the first MMOs.
By the way, watching this video gives me anxiety.
Really good into. So I started to assume that being able to just switch your server as you wished was a standard industry thing. It was only really weird when I started playing other MMOs and realized that you can't do that.
Yeah.
And I thought, why on earth can't you do that? That was a perfect thing.
And this is the way that WoW players are now waking up and seeing this too. Because, like, they don't want to sit around and, like, not be able to play with their friends because, oh, my friend isn't on the same server and you have to spend $25 to play on their server. But then if you do that, you have to, like, have these other levels of restrictions too. Like, people just don't want to do that shit anymore. That's literally all there is to it. They don't care about that anymore. They don't care about, like, whatever the integrity of some perceived server community was. It just simply doesn't matter anymore because online communities have transcended that so far that these server communities become more of a restriction rather than a perk. That's what's happened. Things like Discord and other social media websites have just invalidated that perceived value.
When I said to someone, hey, come and play RuneScape, and they said, can I play with you no matter what world I'm on? I thought it was a crazy question to ask. Of course you can.
Yeah.
Of course you can play RuneScape with me no matter what world you're on. Why wouldn't you be able to?
That was
and then,
cool
of course,
for me to see.
Someone says, hey, come and play World of Warcraft. What world do you want? Oh, that world's full. Oh, that world's got bad ping.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to play the Horde or the Alliance. It's a real shame. The ability to play...
And WoW got away with having so many barriers between players because it was such a popular game. So because like literally millions of people were playing the game, it really didn't fucking matter if you had servers because each server had its own community and it was still massive in its own right. So I think that's why it was more okay.
With your friends should be easy. MMORPGs should make it as easy as possible for you to play the game with your friends.
Yep.
If there is a roadblock to you playing the game with your mates, work out what the roadblock is. Let's work out how we can remove it. If it's an online game...
Yeah, any barrier to entry that causes you to not be able to play with somebody you want to play with is almost always bad. And the game would almost always be better if it didn't exist. Now, there are some like faction-based PvP games that this is clearly an exception to. However, I think in most regards with most games, things like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, RuneScape, Lost Ark, it would just simply be a better experience if everybody was able to play with whoever the fuck they wanted to. And trade freely and do everything completely freely without any sort of restrictions whatsoever. And I think that you can have a global market, or at least almost a global market, because PoE has that. PoE effectively has a global market, and that game's fine. Now, obviously, the market gets reset regularly, so it's more complicated to really say that it's fine. However, I don't think it's something that you can't deal with. New World? Yeah, New World was designed that way, and I think it was very smart. Imagine if New World hadn't combined the servers. There'd be servers in New World now that have like 4 people on them.
And the strength is multiplayer play. Let's work out the best way we can do that. If World of Warcraft had free server
Someone
changes...
said in chat, by the way, sorry, I don't mean to pause again. But like somebody said in chat, people think it's easy just by pressing a button. I don't care how easy or hard it is. It's not my job as a consumer to care about the difficulty of like delivering a product. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me how inconvenient this is for you. My job as a consumer is just simply to want what I want. That's it. It's not my job. Like that's your job. That's why you're getting money, is because that's your job. You're being paid to solve this problem. Yeah, you're the consumer. That's not a job. Yeah, exactly.
And you can just hop between them as you wished for your mates. It would obviously change how the game works, and people would go, oh, the communities wouldn't work. It wouldn't be able to build up the communities. Of course it would. If you want the communities on the world, just don't hop. You don't need to. RuneScape did it fine. I mean, I think Final Fantasy XIV is trying to take steps to allowing you to just, play with other people if you want to. What would free server changes do to the economy?
And they have data centers, right? And like, that's great. And now they're going to have, I think it comes in 6.1, right? Or wait, didn't they delay it? I don't know if they did or not. But like where you can play with anybody. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was going to happen, then it got delayed until 6.1. Yeah, 6.18. Yeah. And so I remember reading something about this. And so now I can play with anybody I want. You don't have to be on Aether Data Center. I can play with somebody on Crystal Data Center or any of the other ones. It's not a big deal. And that's great.
Of those servers, well, it would change them. Are you really concerned about the economy of a server more than the ability for players to play the game with their friends? If I had to make...
That's 100% what I think. It's the same thing. Is like the economy of a game just really doesn't matter as much as being able to play with other people. Like, it's just simply a matter of priorities. Being able to play with other people is simply more important, and that's it. That's literally it. If the economy is a problem because of that, then you fix the economy. Basically, it's the tail wagging the dog. The economy is the tail.
A choice between absolutely bricking the economy of a server
just to save that,
allowing players to play the game together.
Yeah, I wonder which one's more important.
Probably go with, let's make it so players can play the game together.
Imagine that.
And then let's work out how we fix the economy. No matter what you do, you're going to fuck up the economy somehow. I mean, Eve has pretty much hired actual economists to work out how it goes. In which case, that makes the game less enjoyable for raiders. Okay, yeah, cool. So then we need to work out how we can make the game more enjoyable for raiders and make it the best game for them. What really irritates me is how someone puts an idea forward, hey, I think this, and someone else immediately goes, well, that will destroy this. Okay, yeah, it might do. But what we need to do is work out how we can then fix that with this. It's a constant process of, let's fix A, oh, B's broken. Let's fix B, oh, C's broken. Let's fix C. And if you keep going and doing it, eventually you will get there. It just takes a while to do.
Yeah, or you get down to problems that are problems, but they don't matter as much, so who gives a fuck? Yeah, you deal with it step by step. It's like basically like the solution is like, oh, let's do nothing and just let things get worse. When Skyrim stream, I played Skyrim for about 1 minute. I was on that wagon ride. I got bored. I quit. I was like, man, this shit, like, where's the dragon? Like, I don't see him. I gotta go. But I gotta go. Like, it's just, I gotta fucking farm out. There's a cloak from a fucking Cataclysm dungeon. It's a 5 mana. It's a random drop from any of the bosses. It's a 1%. I gotta go farm out the cloak. And so, yeah, I gotta go do that. Like, I said, fuck that, and just need to wait 10 seconds. I just did, like, I felt like I found no, like, there was no compelling desire for me to ever play Skyrim. Maybe one day I'll try it again, but I don't know. It just, I could never really get into it, right?
If you suggest a fix
it's not
to
the game,
a
it's
problem,
me.
and that fix is not done because it would cause another problem, that just means you've got 2 potential problems in your chain to fix.
Yeah.
You need to work out how we can do the best for all of them. If you don't do anything because it might affect other things down the road, you will never do anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Because there's always going to be something, there's always a cause and effect.
We can't change this because it would change that. It's a case of, is changing this a benefit? Okay, let's try it. Oh, that messed that up. Let's change this. Let's do that. You need to have people who are flexible. Developers who are flexible. Players who understand that it is an ongoing process. People like to point out the problems that doing anything will cause. Instead, we need to point out the problems, the solutions, and then work out.
Well, there's the problems that doing nothing will cause as well. Like, and like the thing is, the reason why I think a lot of people like collectively are more okay with this is because they saw what happened. Like, a lot of people saw what happened with Classic WoW. Classic WoW, they pretty much did nothing. Like, they made bigger servers and they had layers, which were changes. They were substantial changes, especially the larger server populations. However, for the most part, the game had no changes whatsoever, and there were a lot of cases where it made the game worse. I think primarily with the world buff meta. I think everything surrounding the world buff meta was not positive for the game. It was just simply not a positive for the game whatsoever. It was not a positive in terms of like killing players with world buffs. It was not a positive in terms of like getting them every single week, not having a Chrono Boon Displacer. All of these things were just, it just made the game worse. And I think a good example of like how you can tell that it made the game worse is just look at the way that the population went. Yeah, people were just pissed off. Yeah, it just was frustrating. Tons of people quit in Phase 2. It's like, well, that's how it was at the beginning. Like, there were no battlegrounds. Well, yeah, but there's a reason why they added battlegrounds. So I think that nowadays people are much more accepting of changes early on. World PvP was fun, though? Okay, well, at least we have somebody in here that played a rogue. And also, like, World PvP is fun if you're... Even if you lose, I think that World PvP is generally fun if it's a fair circumstance. So that means that it's not fun 90% of the time. I've said this before, right? Is in World PvP, if you go back and you look at these, 90% of times whenever somebody initiates combat, they win. Because that person knew that they were going to win. That's why they initiated the combat. It's either they're fighting against somebody who's under-geared, you know, a counter-comp class, or the person is at, like, low health from fighting a monster, or they're distracted. Or there's more than one of them whenever they encounter somebody. So there's always going to be something like that. To make it fair, don't remove World PvP. You can't make it fair. Yeah, you can't make it fair. Yeah, there's no way you can make it fair. Like, you can't have World PvP and then have it be fair.
Best choice for the most players. The best choice for the game in general, the system. It's an ongoing, fluid process. That's what it is. It's a case of considering all the solutions, picking the best one, and then doing the best. Perfect is often the enemy of done, as they say. If you spend absolutely far too long waiting for literally
it's a good way to
everything
say
to be
it.
perfect,
I like that.
Nothing ever gets done. So we need to work out what the closest to perfect we can get is, and then actually, you know, do something. Yeah, one of the...
Yeah, you have to take action or at least try something, because if you try nothing, it's just going to keep getting worse, right? trying to make real world street fights fair. Yeah, it's just not gonna. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. And I think new games have no excuse to build around an antiquated ecosystem either. If they don't read the room and act, it's on them, not the player. Well, of course it is, right? And I think that's about making games that just are more dynamic and just are better over time. Of course I agree with that. Absolutely.
Hardest lessons to learn is that if you are when someone says, oh, I'm a perfectionist, not a good thing to be, because what that means is you will spend so long worrying about the minutiae that don't actually matter as much as you think they do, you won't actually do something. Skyrim was not ready when it was released. If they only released it when it was ready, it would never be released.
Most games are never ready. Like Elden Ring wasn't either. Elden Ring had plenty of bugs and problems in it. Like that's why they had a hotfix list so long that they just said at the end of it, and other fixes, because they just couldn't list out everything. Yeah, Cyberpunk, etc. The thing is, like, you have to release it. Like, this is something that exists on a spectrum, right? You don't want to release something like New World or Skyrim, but you also don't want to continuously have something like Star Citizen either.
I am not advocating for releasing unfinished games.
Yeah.
Not at all. The players deserve way better than what they are getting.
Of course.
What I am asking people to understand is that the process of perfection will ultimately lead to very little ever happening. Skyrim's still not ready. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Players do need games to be in a playable, workable state. And you, if you ever do anything, need your project to be in a playable, workable state. But anyone that's ever developed anything will tell you that at some point, perfect becomes the enemy of done.
Yeah, it's good enough.
It really does.
Yep.
At some point, you will need to say, right, this is...
And I think also, like, another thing is, like, game developers that are too attached to systems and things in the game to not change them. I think this happened a lot with New World, for example, is that, like, New World developers had such a fixation on having players play the game in a certain way that they forced content and they forced gameplay that was unfun. Things like Azoth, things like the travel time in the game, things like running back and forth constantly. These kinds of things, like conduit energy is another one with World of Warcraft, right? And at a certain point, it's kind of like a collective. Whenever you say the customer's never wrong, what that means, it doesn't mean that Karen that's complaining about KFC is right. It means that people in general and the collective is not wrong. So, like, even if you think this is a good idea, if it's obviously not vibing with your audience, well, then you get rid of it. It's that simple.
As close to done as it is feasible to get it. And now we need to release what we have and improve as we go. Cyberpunk released far too early because the investors were pushing for it to be released.
Yeah, same thing happened with PUBG.
If Cyberpunk had 6 more months of work, I think it would have released in a much better state. Not perfect.
Yeah.
It still wouldn't have been perfect. If Cyberpunk had 6 more months of planning and prepping, it still wouldn't have been completely bug-free. But it would have been an acceptable release.
Right.
Perfect is the...
Elden Ring also got delayed for the same reason. Is like Elden Ring, I'm pretty sure Elden Ring got delayed. I think that it did. And Elden Ring got delayed from like January to February. And then also on top of Elden Ring, what else got delayed? Endwalker. Endwalker got delayed too. And like, so it's just, there has to be like, there's an acceptable level of bugs and then there's too much.
Enemy of complete. Or the enemy of done. People say to me, hey, I want to start, I get this all the time. People message me. They say, hey Josh, I want to start streaming, but I want to have everything perfect before I start. You know, I want to start streaming, but I want to have the best mic, and I want to pay someone to do custom emotes for me, and I want to have a custom, you know, overlay, and I want to have a custom this and a custom that, and I want to have the best gaming chair I can find. No. No.
Turn on the camera, idiot.
The least you can possibly get away with.
Yeah.
Start with the absolute worst stuff you can. Please, just start. You will learn far, far more from starting something when you are not ready than you will from waiting until you are ready.
That's why I didn't buy boosts in Final Fantasy, is I wanted to learn the class as I leveled it up. Yeah, exactly. It's the same type of thing. It's the exact same thing.
Ironically, one of the only ways to be ready for something is to start it. and learn all the things stuff that's so complex you didn't even know that you didn't even know it. That's the crazy thing. One of the weirdest things I ever learned about teaching, I learned from an older teacher who explained it to me on the job. And there is absolutely no way any book or lesson would have ever prepared me for it. And what that was really weird. I was using an eraser to wipe off a blackboard.
Okay.
And the teacher walks up to me and says, when you wipe either chalk or a dry erase pen off a whiteboard or a blackboard, use up and down strokes to wipe it off. I said, why? And they said, because when you do horizontal strokes, your butt wiggles. Every teacher sees this, every student sees this, and everyone will stare at it. It's worse for female teachers. And I thought, what a random piece of information. Like, what a random thing to know or to learn. And I thought, hang on, no. It's true. You're standing there, wiping left to right, you are wiggling as you do it, because that's just how inertia works in your body. You do it up and down, your body stays still. You're a female teacher, you're teaching high school kids, you don't really want to be facing the whiteboard or the blackboard and just randomly shaking your butt in front of everyone. So, up, down is the best way to clean the board. And I thought, you know what?
Holy shit.
I would never have discovered that if I hadn't have just started teaching.
What the?
Everyone focuses so much
wow
on being ready before they do anything.
This is, yeah, it's like we've just moved into another dimension, guys. Holy fuck. Our teachers did the same? Bro, like, I was never even looking at the teacher in class to even notice. Like, that's the thing, because I was like, whenever he was saying it, I was thinking, like, is this what my teachers would do? It's like, actually, I really don't remember. I don't remember what they did, because I wasn't looking at the front of the board. Like, when would I ever look at that bitch? Like, I don't give a fuck what they saying. Who gives a fuck? I'm just doing what I want.
Very few people do anything. Do the thing that you feel you're not ready for. Because I absolutely guarantee you will learn far more from doing it and failing than you will from reading everything to make sure success is guaranteed.
It's probably true. Yeah, it probably is true. That's a good video. I like that. That's a good video. Yeah, listen, I agree. Yeah, model Stu and Asmon. Yeah, I never stared at people like that. Absolutely not. Yeah, go rock climbing without safety gear. Well, I think there's obviously, listen, it's like common sense. And nobody's saying that. Only people that would come to that conclusion are morons. But like, I think that in general, like, yeah, sometimes it's better to just start moving forward and doing something without like trying to make sure everything is perfect. That's about it. Best attempt is to learn and try again. Same thing with Elden Ring bosses. Yeah, that's how I am, right? It's like, how many times have you guys seen me? It's like, well, I don't want to have people explain this to me. I just want to try it out and do it for myself. Like, that's what works for me really well. And I think that's what works for a lot of other people too. Absolutely.